How are you guys doing? How's your Sunday evening? Okay, so I'm seeing good so far. Waiting for you. Okay. Let me just plug in my uh laptop. Oh, 1 second, guys. Oh, we're still okay. Let me just try to plug in something. Can you please give me some couple of minutes? Yep, I think that should be fine. How are you guys doing? So how's your Sunday evening? I'm seeing, wow, 69 participants. So I think I haven't had this big of a class before. So that's nice. I'm seeing a lot of comments about homework. I mean, messages about homework. So yeah, that's good. You've already had a communication about the homework, so you know what to do next. Okay. So yeah, I guess we're good to start because we're already at 70 participants. So usually I just give like a couple of minutes before everyone joins in. But usually how many participants do you have for this group or for this, yeah, for this group? Wow, 100 people. Wow, that's a lot. So I think we're 70% probably. So I guess we're good to start in the next 1 minute. Anyway, they can try to rejoin. I mean, they can just try to rewatch the recording if ever they missed it. Wow, that's so many, 100. I was on vacation for the last month, so this is the first time I'm teaching again. So this is quite a surprise. So, but it's a good thing that we're having so many much students. Yeah, I guess we're good to start. It's already 5 minutes past 5:30 or 6:30 or 7:30, wherever you are. Yeah, before anything else, welcome to Kyrist Lesson 7. So before anything else, I just wanted to introduce myself. So my name is Hezron. You can call me Hez, you can call me Ron, you can call me Hezron. It's totally up to you guys. So a quick background about myself. So I'm a manual QA instructor here at Kyrist. So I've been with Kyrist for almost 2 years now, and I'm basically teaching manual QA courses. So aside from being an instructor, I'm also a manual QA professional. So I've been with the QA industry for the last 13 years. And currently I work as a test lead. So with my work, most of my responsibilities are, I manage the QA team. I need to make sure that all testing deliverables are completed on schedule and on time. I'm also managing, communication with the stakeholders, the developers, and the business as well. So recently, or my recent ones, or my recent client or work was with Google in Mountain View, California. So I have worked there as QA, and I've also worked with Bank of America in Manhattan, and also worked with AT&T in Seattle and New Jersey. So with that, I'm very much excited that you are taking your first step to be a manual QA professional. This is a good, stepping stone if you wanted to learn more about QA, and this is the right and the perfect course for you. So just a couple of reminders before we start. So I guess for the past 6 lessons, you are practicing the same things. So first, if you have any question, just feel free to ask it through the chat box or chat window. So what I'll do is I'll read the question out loud and answer the question right after. And also there's a recording for this lesson. So If you are having some doubts or issues or concerns about the course after, then you can just rewatch the recording. So another disclaimer, so lesson 7 is going to be an interesting topic. So for lesson 7, we're going through the mobile technologies, such as going through, the first part would be the evolution of cellular networks. What are the different mobile operating systems? And what are the most popular smart mobile devices? So I would say the first part would be more on discussion about these things. So these are just introduction to mobile devices and mobile operating systems. And the second part or the second section of the discussion would be pretty much different from the first one. So with the second part, we're going through a quick demo. So we will be going through different platforms such as Xcode and ADB. So with these platforms, we will be going through how do we use this and how do we install this and what its importance as QA engineers or manual QA professionals. So with that, we will be going through application builds, how do we install and uninstall, how do we get the log files, and how do we get exceptions. So that's going to be the plan for today. So we're going through 2 parts or 2 sections. And also another reminder, you are not going to be required to do the same. So for section 2 or for the part 2 of this discussion, I will be showing you different steps on how to use the platform. So you will not be required to do the same. So what you need to do is just watch and listen on how do I do these steps and process for these platforms. So again, you will not be required to do the same. So you will not be asked, or you will not have any you will not have any quiz or assignment related to this topic. Okay. If you might ask why, because some of these tools require certain, certain equipment and certain files. So before doing that, you need some MacBook or you need some files to be able to do this. So that's why you will not be required to do this the same. Okay. Again, if you don't have any questions, I guess we're good to start with the lesson. Evolution of cellular networks. From Asif, no quiz tomorrow. I believe there's quiz, but what I was trying to say is you will not be required to do the you won't have any tasks or assignments related to mobile testing. So the one that I'll be showing you later on, you will not be required to repeat the same steps. So that was I was trying to say earlier. Yes, no homework, just quiz. So for the entirety of this course, you will only have one homework, and that was already communicated to you previously. So that's the only homework that you need to worry for now. Okay, guys, for now, let's just focus on this lesson, and let's just try to ask these questions about homework later on. Okay. So now let's start with the evolution of cellular networks. So we have here 3G, 4G, and 5G. So you can see from 1998, we have 3G. And I think this was the first cellular network that was used back then. So what are the different features for 3G? So first we have the SMS. So SMS, so this is the sending of messages. Back then that supports 3G. And we also have the internet. So with the internet, you can see here the speed is quite insignificant. So we have 0.1 to 8 megabytes per second. So with that kind of speed, I'm not sure what you can do on the internet, but I think that's quite reasonable during 1998 that we have this kind of speed is because, internet wasn't that popular back then. So probably even though you have access to the internet, there's not much thing you can do in the internet compared to today. So that was 1998. I know, Manuela. So you need lots of patience for that slow-mo internet. But again, if you have internet access during that year, I'm not sure there's Facebook, there's no Twitter, there's no social media platforms that you can, access on that year. So I guess having that kind of speed is quite reasonable. But compare it today, I mean, if you have that kind of speed and with today's internet capabilities, then probably that's a bummer. So now, fast forward to 10 years after 3G, year 2008, we have now 4G. So with 4G, we still have SMS. So with SMS, you can still send messages, text messages, and multimedia messages. And we also have internet. But you can see from the speed, it's quite insignificant in terms of the improvement. So from 3G, we have 0.8 to 8 megabytes, but with 4G, it's at 15 megabytes per second. I don't think it improved that much, but it's still an improvement. And I guess this year, this was the time 4G supports video capabilities now. So I guess this was also the year, or probably the era wherein most of the social media platforms were started to be picked up by internet users. So I guess this was the year where Facebook started, even YouTube. So I guess internet usage starts to pick up. So probably even though that the internet speed wasn't that significant, so they're still used by a lot of internet users or by mobile users. Yes, Skype. Yeah, this was the year where Skype was also, widely used. Or if you're familiar with YM or Yahoo Messenger, AOL, yes. So these were pretty much widely used before. Not sure if Skype is still being used today, but I think Skype was um, acquired by Microsoft. So probably if they were acquired by Microsoft, then it's still alive right now. Yeah, so I still remember those days. So fast forward to 2020, so just 2 or 3 years ago, we now have 5G. So with 5G, we still have SMS. So with the 5G network, you can still send messages, text messages, and send or receive text messages and multimedia messages. So like video or video recording or audio or pictures. Of course, we still have internet. And try to take note, 12 years after, you can see the significant improvement on the internet speed. So from 4G, we have now 15 megabytes. I mean, before we had 15 megabytes for 4G, but now we have 1 to 10 gigabytes per second. So imagine the increase or the significant improvement in terms of internet speed. So it's now at um, probably 1,000-fold increased. So imagine what you can do with the internet as of this day. So of course, we still have video. So we still have video streaming. So having 5G network supports video streaming probably in higher definition. So we have 4G, we have 1024, we have 4G, 4K, and I think we have 8K, I'm not sure. We have, YouTube where heavily relies on video streaming, and also how can we not mention TikTok, wherein it heavily relies on video streaming as well. So with the help of 5G, it's possible now to have all these video streaming platforms available in the market. And another thing that was introduced with 5G is the IoT, or the IoT meaning Internet of Things. So Internet of Things is it's a technology wherein you can communicate and control your appliances, home appliances, through the touch of your phone or through the use of your phone. So, for example, if you wanted to have, or most likely if you have Google Home, Amazon Alexa, so I have Google Home here. So if you have also Alexa, or if you have Facebook portal, so this supports Internet of Things. So with that, you can communicate with your devices. I mean, you can communicate with your appliances using your device. For example, if you wanted to schedule to turn on or to turn off your washer and dryer at this specific time, or if you wanted to, schedule your Roomba to start on its own for 2 hours to clean the basement or to clean your bedroom, then that is possible with Internet of Things. So these are the evolution of cellular networks. So for sure, there's going to be another type of cellular networks in the near future. So probably it's going to be 6G or 5SGS. I don't know. I don't know what's going to be it named after. But what is the key takeaway for this slide? So the key takeaway for this slide is, from the words of evolution. So every year, every couple of years, every decade, there's a new technology that's being introduced to the market. So us QAs, we need to be more flexible and we need to be versatile in terms of shifting our test focus from one technology into another technology. So if you were QA back then, so I am a QA for 13 years, so I've worked 2009 and 2010, starting 2009, 2010. So back then, mobile testing wasn't that big of a deal. But fast forward to now, I would say if you are a QA tester, you will be required, or um once in your life as QA engineer, you will be asked to do some mobile testing. So that was insignificant 10 or 12 years before, but now it's going to be more on part of your responsibility. So that's the key takeaway for this slide. So you just need to shift your focus in terms of what is the new technology and what is the current trend. So again, you just need to be more flexible and versatile and know when to shift your focus. Okay. So we have here the next slide, the mobile technology growth. So you can see from this chart, starting from 2018 to 2023, we have here the trend of mobile technology in terms of growth. So of course, I think this is no brainer. The most popular mobile technology in terms of growth would be smartphones. So I guess everyone owns a smartphone, probably not just one, but two smartphones. So I'm not surprised that it takes about 50% or almost 50% of mobile technology in terms of growth. Then followed by non-smartphones, which is 27%, and followed by M2M or machine to machine, and followed by phablets. So phablets is a coined term for a phone and a tablet. So later on, we'll discuss more about phablets. And lastly, we have tablets. So these are the iPads and the Galaxy tabs. Then lastly, we have PCs or personal computers. So these are the desktop computers that we have. So what would be, again, the key takeaway or the key note for this slide? So when we are doing mobile testing, now we know that there are different mobile devices available in the market, not just smartphones. So that's why when we are doing mobile testing, we need to be carefully selecting the device that we need to use for our mobile testing. So when we say mobile testing, we are not just after with smartphones. So based from this slide, there are different types of mobile technologies. So again, when you are doing mobile testing, you just need to make sure that you are capturing all the devices that your application will be supported. Okay? So now I've mentioned there are different mobile devices, examples of smart mobile devices. So of course, the first one would be the smartphone. So probably this is a no-brainer. I mean, everyone probably owns a smartphone once in their life, not just one, but two, or probably more than two. So, but for the for this discussion, so a smartphone is just a regular phone, but it's considered a smart if it can connect to the internet or it can be connected to the internet. So with that, you can download apps. So aside from the basic phone features, so you can make and receive calls, you can make and receive messages. So aside from that, with a smartphone, you can connect it to the internet and you can access the web, you can download apps, and you can use apps, games, social media, office productivity apps, and all the different apps that you can download on your phone. So with smartphone, I guess everyone is using it for their daily lives, for personal use, and for school or for work purposes as well. So that is the first example of a smart mobile device. So the second example of a smart mobile device is a phablet. So with the phablet, again, it's a combination of a phone and a tablet, hence named as phablets. So with phablets, it's considered as phablets if the size is greater than 6 inches, I think, or more probably, and it can function as a phone. So one perfect example of a phablet is the Galaxy Fold, the one that folds lengthwise. So that's considered as a phablet because it acts as a phone. And at the same time, when you open the phone, it acts as a tablet because of its size. So with the phablet, you can use it as a normal phone and you can also use it as a tablet wherein you can watch with a bigger screen and bigger resolution. Then next we have tablets. So with tablet, obviously that comes with a bigger screen or bigger size or bigger resolution. So with tablet, we have the iPad. So we have the Apple iPads, iPad Pro, iPad 11, 8, and we also have Galaxy tabs. Then we also have different manufacturers. So I believe Amazon has one, Amazon Fire, I think. Then we also have different brands for the tablet. So the main purpose of why people are using tablet is because of its size. So obviously, if you wanted to watch a movie or a video instead of watching it on a phone, then you can watch it on a tablet because of its bigger size. And some people are also using it for study or for office productivity, wherein they can use it to create contents, editing, or they use it for presentation for their homework or for work also. Sometimes they use it as a replacement for a laptop or for a MacBook. So that is what tablet is. Then the next one, the fourth bullet is wearables. So with wearables, I would say this is very much popular as of this day or as of the moment. So this is an emerging smart mobile device. So with wearables, yes, so that is correct, Manuela and Olga. So these are the devices that you can wear it on yourself or at yourself. So a perfect example would be watches. So we have now Apple Watches, Samsung Watch, other brands also have the smartwatch. Then, it's not just limited to watch. You can also have AirPods, or so wearables. You can also have a ring. You can also have a necklace. So Fitbit is one, bracelet. So everything that you can wear that is connected to it's connected to the internet and can be accessed through an app and can communicate through your phone, then that is considered as wearables. Okay, so that's why I consider this as something that is getting popular because there's other brands or other manufacturers that are not into technology, but they're trying to venture out into wearables. So a perfect example would be Fossil. So with Fossil, we know that they are a traditional watch company, but they try to venture out and they have smartwatches as well. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Olga never heard about a ring. So Samsung has a ring, I believe, wherein it can track. It's like a Fitbit, but instead of a watch, you wear it on your finger, an index finger, or whatever finger you have. So it acts as it can track your heartbeat, heart rate, oxygen, all those types of stuff. Necklace, yes, Fitbit has a necklace. So instead of Fitbit or Fitbit, instead of having it as a watch, I have a Fitbit here. It has an option to be a necklace. So you can also wear it through a lace or something like a necklace. Yeah, obviously bracelet, yeah, and watch. And even the, what they call this, the lens. So Google has lens. I think Apple is trying to make a glasses also. So that's considered as wearables if ever it gets to the public. Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's so many options of wearables. That's why I'm considering wearables as an emerging product that's going to be popular because, the options are endless. Okay, so we'll never know. Probably in the next couple of years, we'll have a smart belt or smart shoes. I guess there's smart shoes, smart shirts. I don't know. Yeah. Okay. So now we're at the fifth bullet, gaming consoles. So with gaming consoles, that's pretty much straightforward. So gaming consoles, um, the main purpose of it is to play games. So with gaming consoles, it has a separate console that you need to connect to your TV or connect to a portable or a projector probably, and it has a joystick and you can play games. So with gaming consoles, you can also watch movies, download apps for your TV, and it can connect to the internet. So these are the different use cases for gaming consoles. Is Apple Watch really convenient? I'm not sure. I don't have a Apple Watch. I'm planning to get one, but I'm still deciding whether it's, you know, a good decision or not. But I'm still sticking with my Fitbit because Fitbit tracks my sleep and I'm wearing Fitbit 24/7. So I don't like to wear Apple Watch 24/7 as well. That's why I prefer to I prefer to have Fitbit instead of Apple Watch. As if we have a question. So far, we were given examples how to write test cases and bugs for what websites. How come no apps or smartphones? so, so as if lesson 8 would be creating test cases on mobile apps or mobile phones. So probably after lesson 8, you'll have an idea on how to create test cases if you are using mobile devices. So after lesson 8, you can create your test cases related to mobile devices as well. Yeah, Manuel, I think this is where we are going now. Yeah, I guess with all this development, with all this wearables technology, I guess everything would be smart now. Yeah, I believe Apple Watch has a lot of features, not just Apple Watch, but other smartwatches. But it depends on your priority, I guess. Okay, so now moving on, we have ebooks. So I guess I'm not sure if anyone here still owns or owned an ebook before. So with ebook, we have the most popular one, Kindle, Amazon Kindle. So it's just like a tablet. So for anyone who hasn't heard of Kindle, so Kindle is just like a tablet, but it's smaller and it has less features than a tablet. So with a Kindle or an ebook device, you cannot connect. I mean, you cannot make calls or you cannot receive text messages or calls because it doesn't have any cellular feature. It doesn't have a SIM as well, but it can connect to the internet. However, the apps that you can download are pretty much limited because the sole purpose of having an ebook is to read ebooks format or PDF format files into your device. So if you don't want to read a book, a physical book, then you can buy an ebook and you can read novels or books or PDF files through your ebook device or even audiobooks. Yeah, so Tiffany, you can download Kindle on your smartphone. Yeah, so I guess that's why there's not much demand for ebooks anymore because we now have tablets. And like you mentioned, you can download Kindle on your phone. So I guess that defeats the purpose. So why have two different devices that serves the same purpose, right? So probably that's why ebooks is not that popular as of the moment. We're not sure, probably it's going to revive in the next couple of years. Someone will try to innovate ebooks, probably it will have a hologram or those kind of features, then we'll never know. Excuse me. Then third to the last, we have media players. So back then, this was also pretty popular. I guess with media players, so these are the devices that you can run or play media, audio or video or music or audio. That's also audio. So some examples of these are the iPods. So the iPod or the iPod with an O, MP3 players, DVD players, VCD, Betamax. I don't know. These are some kinds of media players. And like I mentioned, it's not that used as of the moment that much. So similar to what Manuela has pointed out, smartphones are replacing lots of other devices. So I guess that's the reason why media players are not used anymore because smartphone can do that anyway. Second to the last bullet would be the digital cameras. So with digital cameras, I guess this is pretty straightforward. So it's a camera, digital cameras, so it can take photos, it can take videos, but it's considered as smart because you can connect it to the internet, you can connect it to your phone, you can download an app to connect it, you can even um, um, edit videos through your phone or through the device and upload it directly on the device. So I guess the traditional examples of digital cameras are the old digital cameras that we have, DSLRs, and now the perfect example of digital cameras would be the GoPros, the DJI, the what they call that, the drones. So this would fall under smart mobile devices, particularly digital cameras. And lastly, we have the in-car media systems. So with this, so these are the console that is installed on your dashboard, on your car dashboard. So this looks like a tablet, but it's not. But it serves as a tablet also, but it's not portable. It's connected to your dashboard, and through that, you can watch YouTube, you can use Facebook, you can connect to the internet, you can use maps, you can receive text, you can receive calls, make text, send text. So that's considered as a smart mobile devices as well. So Apple has one, the Apple CarPlay, and we also have the Android version as well. So why do we have to know all these smart mobile devices? So similar to the reason on this slide. So the first thing that will come into your mind when we say smart mobile devices is smartphone. And at the top of your mind, it's only smartphone. But with this slide, we now know that there are different types or examples of smart mobile devices. And when we are doing our testing, we are not just limited in testing smartphones. We need to make sure that we are capturing the user experience on the different devices that the application will be supported to. And at the same time, you need to be smart enough in identifying these devices. So for example, if you're testing a game, if you're testing an app, a game app, obviously, what would be the devices you will be using for testing? So you will have smartphones, probably on a tablet, but you won't be using or you won't be testing your game on a wearables or on a digital camera or an ebook. So that's not supported or that is out of scope. And for sure, for example, if you are testing an app, a fitness app, similar to Fitbit, where it can track your oxygen, your heart rate, your sleep. Of course, you need to test it on an actual wearable. And probably you need to test the app on a smartphone or on a tablet. So another example would be if you are testing an actual game that can only be tested on a gaming consoles, then obviously you just need to test it on a gaming console and you don't need to test it on other smart mobile devices. So that's why you need to make sure that when you are performing mobile testing, you are capturing the correct user experience based on the actual mobile device. And when you are doing your testing, this information will be provided to you. So based from the previous lesson, so do you think or what do you think is the name of the document where this information about the mobile device is supported will be mentioned? So what type of document it is? Yeah, that is correct. PRD or BRD or TRD. So that is the document that you need to look at or you need to go over to make sure that the device or the mobile device list would be mentioned. So in such cases, for example, if it's not listed on the PRD, the BRD, or the TRD, who is the right person to know or to ask this information? So if it's not mentioned in the documents, who would be the perfect person to ask this question? It's actually not it's not actually the developer or the project manager because they are just only relying it to the PRDs. So who would be the author of the BRD? Who's the author? Who creates the business requirements document? Correct. So it's the stakeholders or the product owner or the business analyst because they're the ones who, interviewed the client or the customer what they wanted. So with that, if you don't know if you don't have the information about this, then definitely you can consult with the business analyst, the product owners, or yeah, those two. Because the product manager or the project manager or the QA lead or developers, they don't have information to that as well unless they have it, unless it has on the PRD or the BRD, which of course, who is the author of the PRD or the BRD? It's the business analysts. So in these cases, they're the ones who you need to contact to if you have any questions about that. Okay, any questions so far, guys? Okay, so now let's go over the worldwide smartphone sales. So here you can see the graph is kind of outdated. It's 2018, so it's about 5 years. Wow, I can't believe it's 5 years already. So it's 5 years outdated, but I guess the trend is still the same. So with this graph, we can see that the main or the leader in terms of smartphone sales would be Android. So the blue line is Android. So with as of 2018, the sales would be at around 3 billion, 3.5 billion, but 5 years after this chart, probably it's at 4 billion or 4.5 billion. Followed by iOS or Apple, which is about almost a billion probably. But you can see here there's a big gap between Android and iOS. Mainly because Android, they have different manufacturers. So it's not just Samsung. It also has Google, it has HTC, Xiaomi, Huawei. So there's a demand in terms of Android. I mean, in terms of Android, unlike iOS, it's only for Apple. Okay. So these are the main leaders of smartphone in terms of sales. But 10 years after, let's just go back to the years 2007 to 2010. You can see the main leader in terms of smartphone sales is the green one, and it's Symbian. Does anyone know what Symbian is? So Symbian is actually Nokia. So Nokia is the brand, Symbian is the OS, or the smartphone it's running. Yes. So it is Nokia. Yeah. So if you have a Nokia phone before, so it's running on a Symbian OS. So you can see here that they were pretty much popular around 2007 until 2010. And around that year, quarter three or quarter four of 2010, the sales kind of go down, and Android started to pick up in terms of sales. And around 2011, iOS or Apple started to go past the Symbian or the Nokia. The reason why probably is because they didn't reinvent. I mean, they just stick to their phones. But back then, around 2010, smartphone was the next big thing. The touch screen. Nokia didn't probably try to pull into that trend. So that's the reason probably why it didn't continue to be the leader in terms of smartphone sales. So aside from the green one, we have the pink or the red line, which is the BlackBerry. So it was popular back then, aside from Nokia. So BlackBerry phone or devices. So these were the devices that has the QWERTY keypad. So they are the ones who introduced or pioneered the QWERTY keypads. So that's the main feature of BlackBerry. But in terms of sales, I think it kind of plateaued. And around 2010, when smartphone was pretty much in demand and popular, it kind of died down also, similar to the fate of Nokia. And lastly, we have the black one, which is Windows, where I think it didn't take off, probably because of the loss of demand or a lack of demand from the public. Windows also had a phone, if you're not familiar. So they had Windows Lumia before. So it's also a smartphone or a touch screen, but I think there was lack of demand from the public, so that's why it didn't quite take off. But I think yeah, that is correct, Zana. Nokia is now running on a Microsoft OS, but I think recently Nokia also switched to Android. So before they switched to Microsoft, and now they switched to Android. So you can buy a Nokia phone that is running on Android, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, back then Nokia was pretty much popular. So even myself, my first phone was a Nokia. It wasn't 3310, but it was 3350 or 6650 or something. But I switched to a Sony Ericsson smartphone. But yeah, it was nostalgic having a Nokia phone. Okay. So again, what's the key takeaway for this slide? So similar to knowing the device that you are testing, your mobile application, you also need to identify the OS or the brand or the manufacturer wherein you will also be performing your testing. So you need to make sure that you are testing it on an Android and on an iOS version as well. So that is quite important because even though your app is going to be similar for Android and iOS, you need to make sure that both versions should work as the same. Okay, so that's the reason why we also need to make sure that we are testing both on an Android device and an iOS device. Okay. Sorry. So on this slide, we just have the most popular devices, mobile devices, as of 2020. As of 2020. So for Android, you can see here for both Android and iOS, we have grouped the devices into US market and into the worldwide. So for Android, we have US market Galaxy S9, S10, Note 10, Note 9, Pixel 4 and 5. For iOS, for worldwide, we have Xiaomi Note 7, we have Huawei P30, Huawei Mate 20 Pro, Galaxy A10, A50, Oppo A5, Motorola G7. While for iOS, the most popular ones for the US market would be the iPhone XR, 11, 8, 10, and 7. While worldwide, we have the 7, 8, 11, XR, 10, and 7 Plus. So most likely the list would change since it's 2023 already, and a couple of devices for iOS has already been introduced to the public, similar to Samsung as well, or for Android. So why is it important that we know what are the different the popular devices known or used based on geographical location? So based on US market or worldwide. So this would be important if you are Fabian, our slide does not have all this data, or rather the worldwide data. Are you able to see my presentation, the deck? Are you seeing it completely? Or, okay, yeah, I see. Yeah. Work at home slides. Okay, I get it. Okay, yeah, sorry. Got it. Okay. Yeah, going back. So the reason why this is important is because, like I always been mentioning, when you're performing mobile testing, you need to capture the actual user experience. Okay. So this would be significant or important if you are testing an application that is geographically or geographic location based. For example, if you are testing a Bank of America application, which most of the users would be using it in the US. So if you are testing that application, then it's only appropriate to test that application using the mobile devices that are popular in the US market, so that you will be able to capture the actual user experience. So you don't need to waste your time to test the mobile application, the Bank of America mobile application, using Xiaomi or Huawei or Oppo or Motorola, which are not widely used in the US market, right? Does it make sense? Because again, the main purpose of doing mobile testing is to test the functionality at the same time, the user experience. So even though it will work the same on different devices, of course, each phone has different size, different pixel, different resolution. So that's why you need to test it on an actual device. And to capture that is to test it on the actual device that are popular on those markets as well. So not just in the US market. So for example, if you are testing an application that is going to be used in Europe or in France or in Italy or in Spain, then you need to shift your focus on using mobile devices that are wildly popular in that market or in that region. So similar, if you're testing an application in Asia, then you need to make sure that you are testing the application on the devices that are popular or widely used in that location. Okay. Yeah, so that would also fall localization testing Zana because you're testing it on different markets. But here you're testing the actual user experience as well. They're Daedra, going back, what's the difference between phablet and tablet? So a phablet is a phone and a tablet. So just going back to previous slide or previous discussion. So a phablet is a phone and a tablet, while tablet is just a tablet. So in what sense? So some phablet has cellular capabilities. So meaning you can insert a SIM. So that's why some tablets, they have a Wi-Fi and cellular and just Wi-Fi. So if it's Wi-Fi and cellular, that is considered as a phablet because even you're using a tablet, you can make some calls, you can place calls, and you can connect to cellular networks. While some tablet is just purely Wi-Fi, it doesn't have any cellular capabilities. So with the phablet, it has a phone and a tablet. So meaning it has a cellular feature and the size is bigger, while tablet is just a tablet because of its size. So you cannot make any cellular capabilities or cellular features. Okay, so yeah, sorry. Going back to this deck, so when I was working with AT&T around 2006, we were testing the My AT&T application. So that's the self-service application of AT&T, and we were given a list. So the BAs gave us a list of devices that were accessing the My ATT application. So it was like similar to this list. So they gave us a list of 5 to 10 devices wherein the application is widely used. So it's mostly iPhones back then. I'm not sure if there were a couple of Samsung devices, but the BAs specifically asked us to test the application using these devices. So that's the importance of it. That's why we have this list also. Yeah, any questions so far? Okay, so now let's move on to the next slide. So history of mobile OS versions. So with this, we have Android and we have iOS. So with Android, you can see here we have Android 1.5 to Android 8 Oreo, which I believe it's outdated. So similar to iOS, we have 2007 and iOS 12, which is also outdated because we have 15 or 16 already. So what is the reason why we have to go through, or why do we need to know the OS version? So what is its significance in knowing the OS version when we are doing our mobile testing? So there are 3 things that happen when there is changes or upgrade to the OS version. So first, they are removing existing features. So for example, if there is a new feature, there is an existing feature on your phone and they're trying to deprecate that or discontinue that feature, so they will remove that. Second one is existing features, they want to improve on existing features. So for example, they wanted to add more functionalities or to optimize these features on your phone, they'll do that through an OS upgrade. And lastly, they wanted to introduce a new feature. So for example, they decided to introduce this feature and this would only be applicable for certain OS version. So when those 3 activities happen, then we need to perform testing because we are not sure whether if these features are still working on our device or in our application. And we need to make sure that these new features are supported by our application. Okay. So a perfect example would be around 2015 or 2016. Around this time, around iOS 9 or iOS 10, they introduced the Touch ID or the authentication using your thumb. or using your finger. So before, our mobile application relies on the traditional or the standard login authentication by using email and password. But since iOS decided to introduce a new feature, they wanted to add Touch ID as a way of authenticating your login, then your application needs to support that as well. So you need to make sure that the application is supporting that new feature of iPhones wherein you can use your fingers to authenticate your login or your self. So with that, the developers need to go back to the existing application and they need to add that feature and need to make sure that Touch ID is being recognized by your application. So that is the importance on why we need to know the OS version when we are doing our testing, because there are some features that are already not available on the current version of the OS. And at the same time, there are new features that are not available on our mobile application. So that's why when we are performing our testing, we need to make sure that we are running the application on the correct mobile OS version. So for example, if your version your application only supports iOS 12 and you're running iOS 15, then obviously there's a mismatch between iOS and your application might not work properly. So obviously that is considered as bug, or not actually a bug, but an issue because you are running a different OS version. So similar to Android, when you're running on an Android 8 or Android 12, but your mobile application is only supporting Android 8, then definitely you are running it on a wrong OS version. So that's why you need to make sure that you're running on a correct OS version. Okay. Yep, so same as the environment, that is correct. Compatibility, yes. So that's why when you're downloading an application on App Store or in Google Play Store, there's a field there about OS version, because some application requires a minimum OS version that you are running your app, your phone. Okay. From Manuela, would the company that hire us provide different mobile devices, or we need to have them? It's the responsibility of the company to provide those to provide these devices. So they will provide it to you. So later on, we will be discussing one workaround. So if you don't have a physical mobile device, there's a workaround or there's an alternative for that. So later on, we will be discussing that. Okay, so yes, that is correct. Simulators and emulators. So do you want to go on a quick break, guys, or do we finish this deck or this slide first before we go on a break? What do you guys prefer? Oh, okay. So we okay, so I'm seeing mostly continue. Yes, let's just finish this slide first before we go on a 10-minute break. So types of mobile applications. So there are different types of mobile applications. So we have native, we have hybrid, and we have web. So with native apps, native apps are developed for a certain mobile device operating system like iOS or Android. Therefore, they are native for a certain device or platform. Users install native apps using marketplaces such as Google Play Store and App Store. So a mobile application is considered as native if it is available in the Google Play Store and in the App Store. In the first place, in order for your application to be hosted or to be available in marketplaces such as Google Play Store and App Store, they need to be native to that OS. So meaning if you want to have an application that is available in App Store, you need to make sure that that application is developed using the iOS um, iOS platform. And at the same time, if you wanted your application to be hosted in or available to be downloaded in Google Play Store, you need to make sure that that application is running or has been created or developed using the Android platform. Okay, so in simpler definition, as long as the application is available in Google Play Store and in App Store, it is considered as native apps. Okay, so can you provide some examples of native apps? Do you have any ideas of some native apps? Yep. Yes, so these are some examples of native apps. So let's go to the second type, which is web. So let's just skip hybrid for now. Let's go on, or let's go with web. So web apps use a certain browser in order to run, and they are commonly written in CSS, JavaScript, or HTML5. Users can access web apps from any device that is connected to the internet. So users access mobile web apps using mobile browser, such as Safari and Chrome Mobile. So an app is considered as a web app if you can use the application on your phone on a browser, a mobile browser. So for example, if you wanted to access Facebook on your mobile device, instead of using the actual app, you go to your browser, Safari or Chrome, then you go to www.facebook.com. If it works and if it loads and you're able to use that application, then that is considered as a web app. Okay, so are we clear with the definition of a web app? So again, a web app is an application that you can access and use through the mobile browser, which is Safari and Chrome Mobile. So with that definition, can you provide some examples of a web app? Yeah, Instagram, Pinterest, Spotify, Amazon. Yes, these are considered as web apps. YouTube, bank apps, yes. So yeah, mostly these are also web apps. So now we already know what's a native and what's a web app. Then let's now go on to hybrid. So hybrid mobile apps are specifically built using different multi-platform web technologies. Hybrid apps are website applications created in a native wrapper. That means they use elements of both native and web-based apps. So users install native apps using marketplaces such as Google Play Store and App Store. So in simpler definition, hybrid is combination of native and a web app, meaning your application is considered as hybrid if you can download the application on a marketplace such as Google Play Store and App Store, and at the same time, you can access the application using your mobile browser. Okay, so are we clear with what hybrid is? So meaning you can download it on a web store, an app store, and at the same time, you can access it on a web browser, mobile browser, I mean. So Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, so these are considered as hybrid applications. So my question for you guys, so can you provide some examples of native only applications? Meaning it can only be accessed through a marketplace, but they don't have a web version of it. Yes, so Carlos, that is correct. GarageBand. Mostly games are considered as native apps only. And apps that are specific to an OS, such as iMessage, Samsung Health, so these are considered as native apps. So what are some examples of web apps only? Meaning the app doesn't have an application in Google Play Store or App Store. It can only be accessed through the browser. So give some examples of it. Correct. So Connor. So government websites, yes. So IRS, DMV. So most of this doesn't have a native apps, mostly just a web. Some examples of it would be schools or education's application, universities. So they don't have a native app, only a web app. Cararis is one, yes. So IRS has mobile app. Okay, so yeah. So in that case, then that is a hybrid. USCIS probably. So yeah. And another example would be small businesses. Oh, correct. SAPTA, yeah. So small businesses wherein they don't have budget to create an app, then they only have a web version. Okay. So are we clear with this slide? Okay, so if we're clear with this slide, then we can go on a quick 10-minute break. And when we get back, let's continue with the discussion. Okay. Okay, guys. So I'll just pause this for a while and let's get back after 10 minutes to continue the discussion. See you guys in 10 minutes. Hey guys, welcome back. Sorry. Can you please confirm if you can see me, you can hear me, and you can see the screen? All three. Oh, yes. Wow, perfect. Yep. So now let's move on. So what are software builds and system logs? So we have here the software build. So the software build is a general term in software development world. So the software build is an activity to translate human readable source code into an efficient executable program. So it's just like having your work saved as into a different file extension. So for example, if you are working on a Google document, so you type your text there, one sentence, two sentences, paragraph, and then you're done with your work, and you save it as, you save that Google Doc as PDF or that docx or that doc or even that Excel. So that is considered or similar to software build. So with software build, the actual codes written by the developers are saved as or exported as into an executable program. And there are different file extensions for Android and for iOS. So for Android, the extension is .apk, and for iOS, it's .ipa. Sorry. Okay, so are we clear with what software build is? So it's just like when the developers, they're done with the codes, they need to extract it or export it as .apk for Android or .ipa for iOS. And then once we have these files, this is what we will be using for testing. So later on, I will be showing you how we utilize these files. Okay. Now, we already know what software build is. Now we have to go through what a system log is. So the system log is a file which contains a record of the operating system events that indicates how the system processes and applications were loaded. So the log shows informational, error, and warning events related to the device, hardware, and software. So with system log, it's just like a log. So when we say a log or a log file, it's just a list of things that took place or that happened on a specific event or a specific day. So for example, if you are making a diary, so if you are having a diary, an actual diary, you write all the things that took place in the day. So for example, at 8 a.m., you woke up. At 8:05, you open your phone. At 8:10, you went to the bathroom. 8:12, you took a bath. Then at 9, you prepared for work. At 10, you arrive at work, and so on and so forth. So that is a log, or that is a log file where it lists of the different activities that took place in the day. So a system log file is similar to that, but instead of actual event that took place in a day, it's usually the different events that took place while you are using the system. So for example, 8:01, you click this, you click that, the system prompted an error message. At 8:02, the system refreshed. Then 8:03, the system crashed. So that is the definition of a system log. It's just a series of events that took place while the system is up and running, and while there are some events that took place while the user is using the system. And it just records all those activities into a file. So that is what a system log is, or also known as a log file. So are we clear with what software build and system log is? Okay, perfect. So now let's move on to the second part of the discussion, or the second part of this lesson. So from Fiven, what's the main difference between the two? They are completely different. The software build, it's the actual file that you will be using for your testing, while this log file is the actual file that only records all the different events that took place while the system or while the application is running. So completely different two files. So now let's go to the second part of this lesson. So how do testers install builds and collect logs on iOS? So again, what is the file extension for iOS? Do you still remember? Yeah, that is correct. So it's .ipa. So once we have the .ipa file, then we can use Xcode. So what is an Xcode? So Xcode is an integrated development environment, or IDE, for Mac OS, containing a suite of software development tools developed by Apple for developing software for Mac OS, iOS, Watch OS, and TV OS. So the second paragraph is actually a duplicate or repetition of what the first paragraph is. So we are using Xcode to develop applications that will run into an iOS Apple devices or Apple software. So just a disclaimer, Xcode is not available on Windows, meaning it's not available for download in Windows. In short, I mean in simpler terms, sorry, you can only use Xcode in MacBook. So again, it's not supported in Windows. Yes, Carlos, it's a bug. They haven't fixed that yet. So Xcode can only be used on a MacBook or on a Mac OS. And if you wanted to download Mac OS, it's completely free. You can go to the App Store and just enter Xcode and you'll be able to download it. Or you can just go to this link and click the download button. So I already have Xcode installed on my device. So with Xcode, you can create devices, applications for MacBook. You can also create devices for Watch, and you can also create applications for Apple TV. So if you're a developer and you wanted to create an application for these devices, then you need to use Xcode for that. And that is why it's called a native app, because you are using a native platform native to Apple. So you just need to go to the search and look for Xcode and just click this Xcode. So I already have Xcode opened or downloaded. So the things that you need to do or you need to have before you can use Xcode is to have, of course, Xcode installed on your device or on your MacBook. The second one is to have a USB cable. So it's just a lightning cable. And the third one is an actual iPhone device. So what we will be doing is I'll be showing you a quick demo on how we use Xcode as QA engineers. So the main purpose of Xcode is obviously to develop an application, but we are not developers. So we are not using Xcode for that purposes. So we are using Xcode as QAs to install the file extensions that were provided by the developers into an actual device so that we can start our testing. Okay, so that is the purpose. Oh, wait, you're not seeing Xcode? Oh, wait, I think I have to reshare. Sorry. Stop sharing. Oops. My bad, guys. Sorry. How about now? Yeah. So this is what an Xcode looks like. So it's just a blank screen because I selected the simulate devices. Okay. So again, you need three things. First, you need to have Xcode installed on your device, on your MacBook, you need to have a USB cable, and third, you need to have an actual Apple device. So in this case, I have an Apple 14 device. So we are using Xcode to be able to install the .ipa file into our actual device, because there's no way to install the .ipa file directly um, into our mobile device. So that's why we're using Xcode as a bridge from our laptop to be installed on our device using this application. So the first step is open Xcode. So again, I'm just showing you a quick demo. Later on, you will not be required to do the same. So what you'll just do is just try to watch and listen and try to understand the high level process behind it. So click devices and then get your USB cable connected to your laptop. And connect it on your phone. So see what happens in Xcode. So you can see here, Xcode has detected my iPhone. It's connected. And we are able to use Xcode as a bridge from my laptop to my device to install the .ipa file from the developers. Okay? So how do we do that? So, but first you can see here the phone, you can see my phone name, you can see the iOS version. So right now I'm running the iOS 16. I have the model, the capacity, and the serial number or the identifier. Sorry. And the next thing you need to do to install is go to the installed apps section. So in order to install, you need to click the plus button. So when you click the plus button, it will show you your library. And with that, you just need to search for the .ipa file. So I have here the Nike app. So this is the IPA file that the developer has created. And I wanted to install this .ipa file into my phone so that I can start my testing. So with that, you just need to select that and click open. However, just a disclaimer, this IPA file is not working. It has some issues with it, but let's just see what happens. So you can see at this section, preparing to install this IPA file into my phone. Sorry. So yeah, you can see here, it's unable to install. There's something wrong with that IPA file. So yeah, there's some issue with the IPA files that I have. I haven't checked this with the team why I don't have why it's not working, but let's just assume that it worked. So it's pretty simple. Once the IPA file has been successfully installed, it will show up in this list. And at the same time, you just open your phone and go to the actual app. So meaning it has been installed on your phone and you can open it on your phone. Then that's the time you can start doing your testing. So for that specific IPA file or that specific version, then you can start performing a test. Okay. So once you have done testing the app, so a good practice is to always uninstall the previous installed file. One way to do that is just go to the list here. So let's just assume that the Nike app has been installed successfully. Just click it from here and click the minus sign. So when you click the minus sign, this will uninstall from the device. Another way is just go through the app, long press, and uninstall it. So those are the different steps you can do to uninstall the app. Okay, so basically that's the purpose of Xcode. We are just trying to install the .ipa file from our computer into our device. Okay? Because there's no straightforward way in doing that in our device alone. So that's why we're using Xcode to do that for us. And aside from that, there are other uses of Xcode. You can take a screenshot. So you can just click this and it will take a screenshot of your actual device, whatever page is it on, so that, and it will be saved on your desktop so that when you create a bug report, then you can just get that screenshot from your device. And then we also have the device logs here. So these are the different log files. So you can see here it's named after the app and it's sorted by date. So for example, I'm testing the Facebook app and it crashed on this date, 11/22. Then this is the actual log file. So log file is only used mostly by the developers and not used by the QA that much. So this is only useful for the developers actually. So in order to extract this, so you can copy and paste. So right click, copy, and save it into a text file. And another way of doing that is right click, then export log, then save it as .log or .text. Okay. And once you have the file, then you can now share it to the developers, or you can attach it to the bug report. Okay. So are we clear with Xcode, guys? The company would provide all the hardware, yes. So they will provide everything. From Manuela, do we create our bug reports using these logs? Yes. So if, for example, you encountered a bug, so a perfect practice or a good practice is when you encounter the bug, create a bug report, then extract the device log and attach it to the bug report so that developers will be able to investigate the log file and see what went wrong. Will we be asked Xcode in an interview? Probably pretty much high level. So for example, they just ask you, do you have experience with mobile testing? If you say yes, then can you walk me through the process on how to do mobile testing? Then you can just mention that it depends on the platform you're testing, whether it's iOS or Android. Then you can use Xcode for iOS, Android for ADB, and then so on and so forth. So this might come up in the interview, but you don't need to go through the exact step, just provide them the process. You can export it from your files or for on your desktop. Yeah, so here just click device logs and just right click and then export, and it will be saved on your PC or your desktop. Okay, guys, any questions for for Xcode before I close this? Okay. So now let's go on to Android. So we already have discussed Xcode for Apple. Now let's go through Android now. So with Android, how do testers install builds and collect logs on Android? Guys, can you please give me some 3 to 5 minutes? I just need to do something. Let me just pause this for a while. I'll be back. Sorry about that. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, where were we? Yeah, so now how do testers install builds and collect logs on Android? So we use ADB. So with ADB, it's Android Debug Bridge, and ADB is a versatile command line tool that lets you communicate with the device. So the ADB command facilitates a variety of device actions, such as installing and debugging apps, collect logs, and take screenshots and manipulate device files. So with similar to Xcode, ADB serves the same purpose. So we install and uninstall apps into our device. So we're using ADB for that. However, the main difference also takes screenshots and debug apps. The only thing different with ADB is it is completely a command line tool, meaning it doesn't have a user interface. So in order for you to communicate to ADB, you need to write certain commands to be able to utilize ADB. Unlike with Xcode, it has a user interface wherein you can just click buttons, you can click other components into the tool. While with ADB, it's completely command line tool, meaning you need to use a terminal or a command prompt to be able to communicate to your ADB. Sorry. One good thing about ADB is it's available for all platforms. So meaning you don't need to, it can run in Windows, it can run in Mac, it can run in Android. So ADB usually communicates with the device over USB. So the device needs to be connected to your machine. So similar to Xcode, you also need a cable and you also need an actual device. QA engineers mostly use ADB tool to install builds and collect system logs. So from Feven, do we download Xcode only for iPhone? Yes. So Xcode is only used for Apple products. So for Android, we need to use ADB. Okay. So with ADB, these are the different commands that we need to use or we need to issue or use to be able to communicate with ADB. So we have 5 here, but we'll only be going to use 3. So the first one is ADB devices. So when you type in ADB devices, it will print the list of serial number of all the devices that is connected. Then we have ADB install. So it helps to install an application that is under development to the device. And lastly, we have ADB logcat to view and follow the contents of the system's log buffer. So these are the 3 commands that we will be using for this demo or for this lesson. So what do we need to do or what do we need to have before we start using ADB? So first, we need to install ADB. So ADB, it's easy to install. Just go to Google and just type in download Android debugging bridge, and you just need to download that file and install it. So it's pretty straightforward and you don't need to do anything about it. Once you have it installed, again, you need to have a cable and an Android device. And the next step would be go to a terminal. So open a terminal. So a terminal, if you are using a MacBook, it's called terminal. If you're using Windows, it's called command prompt. Or if you're using Unix, it's shell. So it's like the black console that you need to open. So when you're using Windows, you just type in CMD. So let me just make this bigger. Oops. And in order for us to check whether if ADB is installed, we just type in ADB. Okay. So if you got this response, it means that ADB is installed on your device. So you can see here the version number, Android Debugging Bridge version 1.0.41. It's installed on your device. So meaning ADB is good to go. So what is the next step? So the next step is to check whether you have a device available for you to test. So unfortunately, I do not own an Android device. So I don't have any Android device with me, or I do not own Android device in general. So with that, um, we need to use a separate tool, a simulator or an emulator, to be able to proceed with the installation. However, if you have an existing Apple device, an Android device, what you need to do is just connect your USB to your laptop and connect it to the Android device. So for example, this is the Android device, just connect it and you're good to go. So what is the command that we need to enter to get a list of all the devices connected to ADB? Do you still remember that? Correct. So it's ADB devices. So you can see here list of device attached. It's empty because there's no attached devices. So for example, if you have your USB connected to your Android device, then it will show up here. Okay. However, I don't have any, so that's why it's showing as blank. So another workaround for that is to use an emulator. So an emulator, so let's just go for this slide. So an emulator is a hardware device or software program that enables one computer system, so in this case, my laptop, to imitate the functions of another computer system. So in this case, I'm emulating an actual Android device. So it enables the emulated system to run software, tools, peripheral devices, and other components. So meaning I can run an Android device on my computer. So meaning I can see and I can use an actual smartphone device on my computer. So it's replicating an hardware, software, OS, or CPU. So emulators are used by developers to test application, while manual QA engineers almost always use real devices for testing. So here's an example of an emulator. So actually before that, so that's why when you are joining a client or a company, they will give you an option to use, or they will decide whether they will ask you to test on an actual device or use an emulator or simulator while doing your testing. Of course, there's pros and cons behind it. So if you're using an actual device, then of course you are using or you are capturing the actual user experience. However, it's very costly because you need to buy the exact phone. So what if you have a lot of QA teams and you need to buy several phones for that? And you need to buy it for Android and for Apple. While emulators, they're cost effective because you just need, most of them are free and some it's for subscription and it can be used by the team. However, it's not the actual user experience. So that's why the company will decide whether they're going to use an emulator or they're going to provide you a real device for testing. Okay, so going back for here, so we are using an emulator. With an emulator, we need Android Studio. So Android Studio, you can download it on Google and just follow the prompt and this will show up after installation. So after you install Android Studio, just click on More Actions, AVD Manager. So AVD stands for Android Virtual Device. And I already have set up an emulator here. So when you create a virtual device, it will give you an option of different devices you wanted to emulate. So I already have it set up, and you can see here that my device is running on an Android 11. So that's what emulator does. It's a virtual device, but it's running on an actual OS. So let's just open this. So I just double click it and it's launching emulator. So you can see here an emulator where it actually emulates a device. So let's just wait for it to load. Yep, so you can see here it actually is like an actual device. So you can navigate it through using your mouse and you can click it from there. Okay, so now we already have the emulator set up. So now did it uninstall? Okay, so now let's go over again with the ADB devices command. And you can see here that emulator 554 is connected to ADB already. So here's a workaround if you don't have an actual Android device. So you can use an emulator, just download Android Studio, just have ADB, and it will automatically connect once you have your emulator opened. Okay, so now we need to install the file or the build into this device. So what is the file extension again for Android? Do you still remember? If it's iOS, it's .ipa. So what is for Android? Yes, that is correct. So it is APK. And I think you have the command for install. So let's try to install now the .apk file that we have. I think there was a question previously from Fatima. Can we test the SIM signal for a specific carrier using Android Studio? Yes, that is possible. So that's why it's called emulator, because it emulates an actual phone. So meaning you can use the peripheral devices here. So you can connect it to a camera, you can connect it to a Bluetooth, you can download files, you can have calls, or you can place, messages. So that's what an emulator can do. You just need to configure it in the back end. However, there's also another option called simulator. So there's a difference between a simulator and an emulator. An emulator, it acts as a real device, but it's just virtual. With simulator, it's also virtual, but it only simulates, meaning it's just trying to copy or replicate what it looks like, but it doesn't function the same way as an actual device. So with simulator, you're not able to install, an actual OS. You cannot use software, you cannot use hardware, you cannot use the SIM, but with emulator, you can do that. So that's the difference between an emulator and a simulator. So there's a difference between simulating and emulating. This is not a simulator, this is an emulator. So with simulator, mostly it's a web version. So you can you can go to different simulator available in web browser. Yeah. Yes, it's similar to a virtual machine. Okay, so going back to ADB device install. So this is the command. ADB install followed by the actual .apk file. So let me just get that. Okay, so I have here the weather app version 1.apk. So what I need to do is drag and drop here so that I will be able to get the actual location of that file. So once you have that entered, so look what would happen on our emulator. So performing stream install success. So you can see here that the app has been installed successfully. So once that is done, then you can now start your testing. So open that app and just do the actual testing. So see this, test it. Once you're done with the test, of course, the good practice similar to Xcode is to uninstall the app. And to uninstall it, it's just pretty straightforward. Just long press and click uninstall. So we're not doing the uninstall version of the command because sometimes it doesn't uninstall the file successfully. So that's why a good practice is to uninstall it and the natural way using Android devices. So you can see here it's uninstalled. So now for example, we're done with the testing today. And next week, the developers have another software build wherein they added new features and they extracted another version of the .apk file. So for example, they're done with the version 2 of the file, then we'll reinstall it and to test those new features. So similar command, adb install, and followed by the apk file. And then click enter. So obviously it will be installed in the emulator. And let's now open it. So observe, guys, what will happen when we try to open it. What happened, guys? Did you notice what happened? So let's open it again. Yeah. So it crashed. So it keeps stopping and we're not able to use it. So meaning there is a bug, meaning something went wrong when we were opening the file. Probably there's some issues or there's some errors. So in that case, we need to log a bug report. And when we create a bug report in Jira, so we'll tag it as high priority, it's a blocker, it's a P0, we'll have everything listed out on the bug. Aside from those information, what else do we need to add to that bug? Do you still remember what else do we need to add to the bug in case we are doing mobile testing and we got this error? Correct. So we need to attach the log files or the log file or the log report to the bug report. And in order to do that is to type in adb logcat -d, enter. So you can see here, it printed out all the files. All the logs into the file. So what you can do is just copy and paste it, but there's another way to do it. It's adb logcat -d. Use this symbol, the greater than sign, followed by the file name you want to save the file. So weather log file, date today is 1 Jan 22. Dot text or dot log. So it's up to you which one to use. And then click enter. Why it's taking so long? Oh, what happened? Did it hang? Oh. I think it's small d. I forgot. Was it small d or big D? Yeah, so there you go. It's small d. So meaning it's wait, let me just make this bigger. So after I enter this command, then this file has been created. So whatever the log file is, it will just save it into this file. So with that, you can just go to your file or your folder and search for that file. Oops. So yeah, I have this file, and then you can now attach it to the bug report. Okay. So that's it actually. So once you're done with the bug report, you can now attach this to your bug report. From Connor, why does Android prefer to use terminal instead of a GUI app like Apple? I'm not sure what's the reason behind it. Actually, I don't have an idea why they don't have a UI for that. Manuela, the class is super fun, but we're out of time. Yes. So actually, this is the end of the discussion. Yeah, this is the last part of the discussion. Yeah, feel free to drop, guys. We're just wrapping up, but we're already towards the end of the class. So when you go back here, yeah, this is are just not required. So yeah, that's the end of the class. So if you need to drop and leave the class, that's fine. Thank you very much. But I'll be staying here for a couple more minutes to just wrap up everything and ask and answer some questions if you have any. So from eHab, how can I attach it to the bug report? Just go to Jira and just click the attachment icon and just choose the file and it will be attached it to the file. Yeah, so again, just go to Jira, click the attach file button and just select the file that will be attached. Thank you very much, Karen. Yeah, I hope I feel better soon. Thank you very much. For Massive, do we need to watch videos in the last two slides of this lesson? You don't have to actually, since you are not going through, you don't have any assignments or tasks related to this, so you don't need to go over that, to be honest. So it's not required. Thank you very much, Zana. So yeah, like I mentioned the first time we start this class, this lesson is going to be very much interesting because it's not the usual class that we have wherein we go through different lessons. Here we have a different, we have a demo on actual device, I mean actual applications. Yes, Tanisha, it would be graded on lesson 12 and 13, but there's a deadline, but make sure to submit it on time. But it will be graded on lesson 12 and 13. So you have a separate class to go over the discussion. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone, that you like this lesson. Yeah, I guess most of the class or most of you enjoy the class. So that's very good. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just not feeling well since the past few days. So thank you very much for the kind words. Benjamin, I did my homework but wasn't quite sure about it. That's fine. That's the purpose of going through lesson 12 and 13. So you will have an instructor review your homework together with the class. So yeah, I guess that should be fine. If you have any questions, just let the support team know. They will be able to assist you. Oh, thank you very much, Zana and Angel. Thank you, Tanisha. I believe the homework is due lesson 10, I believe. So don't take my word for it, but I believe it should be lesson 10. Just go over the dashboard. There should be a deadline for that. Oh, thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it. Yep. Any other questions before we end this meeting? Yeah, so I guess if you don't have any other questions, Oh, from Christian, do we need to watch the videos in the last two slides? No, you don't need to. You're not required, but if you wanted to, feel free to do so, but you're not required. Yeah, if you don't have any questions, I guess we're good to end this meeting. So personally, I just want to thank everyone for attending this class with me. I hope you learned something new today, and just my tip for you guys is just to enjoy the lesson. You don't need to memorize everything. As long as you understand the high level process behind it, then that should be fine from now. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so the deadline for the homework is January 31st. Thank you very much, Clarice and Tara, for that. Yep. Thank you very much again. I hope to see you in upcoming lessons, and have a good night. Have a good rest of the week for you guys. See you soon. Bye-bye.